Yo, it's your boy rydollaz and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to discuss one of the biggest pain points in Apex, which is why good teammates are so hard to find. If you clicked into this video, you're probably feeling distraught, either because your friends don't care as much as you do, or because you're in solo queue hell. Let me just take a second to say, I empathize, and you're not alone. It's not as simple as it seems, and while the team dynamic in this game is what makes it fun and rewarding at its best, is also what makes it rage-inducing at its worst. Nobody likes group projects, let's be honest. The variance in skill and ability is vast, and it's really difficult to find players that are at or around your skill level. This also applies to other competitive FPS titles and Fortnite, but especially in this game, it's tough to say the least. We're all at different skill levels, and I'm not saying that as a slight, it's just a fact. In Apex especially, it's not fun to play on a squad where your teammates are so far and away better than you that you feel like you're not contributing. And inversely, it's not super fun to have to hard carry your teammates all the time either. As you improve, the pool of players that would be compatible teammates becomes smaller and smaller. One might say it gets lonelier as you get better. I'll let that one marinate for a bit. I've had friends try to connect or reconnect with me by picking up Apex, and while I have gratitude, don't get me wrong, it will generally become a stressful experience for all parties involved. I can be as encouraging as humanly possible, but they'll usually become super self-deprecating and very reactionary about the outcome of every game played, and I'll start feeling a lot of pressure to clutch every team fight and consistently make something out of nothing in order to preserve the vibes and our respective egos. Let me know in the comments if you've also experienced something similar to this, but yeah, not great. Actually, one of my boys is trying to pick up Apex for the first time this season, and I can't say that I envy him. I think most of us take for granted how hard this game is and how much there is to learn. And if you haven't thought about it from that perspective before, put yourself in the shoes of a new player in Season 22. Okay, so you should carry 12 shield cells, 4 syringes, 2 medkits, a phoenix kit, as many bats as you can hold. Oh, that's Catalyst ult, which is a wall of ferrofluid. That's Wraith Q, where she enters the void and can't be shot for 4 seconds. Oh, those are Mirage decoys. Yeah, you just died to a Nemesis, which is an auto-fire energy burst weapon with a heat mechanic. Like, I know all this shit and my brain hurts just trying to coherently explain it all. Speaking of, he hasn't hit me up to play in a couple weeks. Hey yo, Toph, where you at? I mentioned Fortnite earlier, and in that game there's a lot more space to be silly and just have fun because it's pretty forgiving and generally more casual friendly. Even Call of Duty, being a low TTK game, is generally easier for the casual player to get a few kills and find some immediate success. In Apex, it's not enough to just find a friend or two to play with, and you can't play with just anyone. If you've played the game for long enough, then you'll know what I'm talking about. I will say, the most fun I had playing this game was when I was bad, and I was consistently playing with 2 of my best friends. As cliche as it sounds, don't be in such a rush to grow up. It's about the journey, not the destination. Take it from me. But yeah, simply put, Apex is not a casual game. I've played this game for years at this point, and have had different teammates, friends, all come and go. When the going gets tough, they say Apex is trash, and move to an easier title to preserve their egos. It's easier to say, I don't care, I'm just playing for fun, than to confront your own limitations and deal with failure. Like real talk, tell me I'm wrong. Look, I get it. At the end of the day, we're playing a video game, and video games are supposed to be fun. Even in today's day and age, where playing video games for fun feels increasingly more rare with the rise of streaming and internet culture. But I like to joke with my friends sometimes that Apex is Type 2 fun, which is a term used to describe activities that are challenging and difficult in the moment, but rewarding in retrospect. So think of it like a challenging hike, a half marathon, backpacking, mountain biking, backcountry skiing, etc. How this relates to the difficulty associated with finding good teammates is that most people aren't willing to devote a lot of time to something they're bad at, especially if they're participating with others that are better than they are. To that point, it's not just about overcoming your own skill limitations in FPS games or the skill gap in Apex. It also involves overcoming ego and developing a level of humility. People often expect or want instant gratification, and if they don't experience it, will make excuses or give up when shit gets hard. Earlier I mentioned the rise of streaming culture, but oddly enough, even avid gamers struggle to acknowledge gaming as a constructive hobby, let alone streaming or content creation as a real profession. Go touch grass! For those of you that have been playing FPS games since childhood, it may not feel like it, but that's an entirely different skill set that needed to be developed. Even on controller, even with aim assist. Take it from me, a late bloomer, and someone that didn't play shooting games growing up. And I'm sure we all know people that won't even touch FPS games because ego. Because it's a challenge, because it's unfamiliar or uncomfortable. Too long didn't read, it's not as simple as just finding people that are willing to play. You have to find people that are willing to be challenged. I'm of the mindset that if it's too easy, it's not worth doing, but I know that a lot of people don't share those same sentiments. We're playing Apex Legends, let's stop viewing it like it's Mario Party 8. It's okay to want to practice regularly. It's okay to set realistic goals. It's okay to reflect on your experiences, take notes, and want to improve at a video game. Which brings me to my next point. Your in-game goals have to be aligned with whomever you're playing with. Like I implied earlier, Apex is a grind and isn't always going to be fun. So in order to find success, you and your teammates have to be willing to stay the course. It's pretty easy and common to get discouraged as it gets more difficult, either through progressing into higher tier elos and ranked, or falling victim to skill-based matchmaking in pubs. Skill-based matchmaking is ruining the game! I'm sure most of us have also experienced what it's like when you and your squad hit a wall. Less commitment, more finger pointing, throwing games, or simply not allowing themselves to care. It's frustrating. There's a lot of depth to getting on the same page and staying on the same page. And simply put, there needs to be a level of accountability and a desire from all parties to want to improve. It's easier to gaslight yourself into not caring than to deal with the potential disappointment from caring too much. Oof. Raise your hand if you've ever re-queued with people you met while solo queuing, had a bad game or two, then are dropped without warning because of your performance either individually or as a team. I'm raising my hand. Feels bad. I'm bringing up that scenario because, in my opinion, it's not realistic to expect your teammates or yourself to be performing at optimum levels game after game, day after day. In that way, FPS titles are a lot like IRL sports. Over the course of the season, even Steph Curry will miss a few free throws. Even Patrick Mahomes will throw a couple picks. Even Devontae Adams will drop a couple balls. My point is, even the best of the best aren't on fire all the time. You'll have your on days and your off days. And there needs to be a level of belief in one another that exists between you and your teammates. Staying the course and doing a little more when they're having an off day, or supporting their success if they're on fire another day. A level of maturity is required from all parties involved to understand this, know this, and be able to see the bigger picture. Obviously, that's pretty f***ing rare in the Apex community, which adds another layer to the difficulties associated with finding good teammates. If you've been following this channel for a while, then you've probably heard my take on what I like to call vanity metrics, which include but are not limited to KDR, end of game stats like total kills and total damage, or even a player's current rank. A vanity metric is a measure that is used to make someone feel good or important, but doesn't necessarily reflect true performance or achievement. While your kill-death ratio and end-of-game stats can be useful for measuring certain aspects of your performance, they don't always provide a complete picture. Same with your rank in Apex. While it does indicate skill level to a certain extent, it's also influenced by factors like individual playstyles, luck, and matchmaking. Haters will say I sound like someone who gets low damage in kills, but I'm sure we've all had teammates that tunnel on kills, or have done this ourselves. That's what I would call justifying bad games with good stats. In my opinion, being a good teammate means you're willing to sacrifice some of these vanity metrics to find team success. Assists don't count towards your KDR. Putting down cover fire to save a teammate from getting knocked isn't a recorded stat. A willingness to play anchor, holding flanks, calling rotations, coordinating pushes, getting that risky res off. If someone is popping off in a competitive lobby, more often than not, they have someone on their team doing all the dirty work that enables them to top frag. Be honest, you're often happier playing with a Newcastle than with an Octane or Wraith, right? Don't play a team game if you're gonna be overly selfish, all I'm saying. Something else that I don't think is discussed nearly enough is the compatibility of playstyles. What I mean by that is, say you're someone that prefers close quarters engagements and plays hyper aggressively, whereas your potential teammate or teammates prefer to play more slowly and fight from a distance with ranged weapons. Right off the bat, something like this presents a difference in approach that will require communication and time in order to meet in the middle and find a good balance. Oftentimes, players tend to be rigid and are unwilling to adjust their approach to accommodate their teammates. But I think this is an essential skill to develop, and being adaptable to different playstyles is a skill in itself, especially in a team game. And obviously, there's more depth to having complementary playstyles than the black and white example I just provided. Have you ever played with someone that didn't have the same playstyle as you, but right away something just clicked? Like you can't even explain why it works, but it does? Or by contrast, have you ever played consistently with a friend of a similar skill level, but for some reason it's exceedingly difficult to get on the same page? Sometimes you're just not compatible with someone else, even if you want to be. And it's up to you to decide how seriously you want to play with someone in those instances. Maybe that person becomes a pubs friend, but not a ranked friend. But just like a willingness from all parties involved to want to improve individually, there also needs to be a willingness to compromise for the betterment of the team. If you've been playing with someone for a while, you should be working to identify each other's strengths and striving to find a playstyle that works to highlight those strengths, versus it being a one-sided situation. Maybe you'll have to challenge yourself in situations that are uncomfortable for you more often than you would prefer. Maybe you don't get to play your legend of choice because it's not working for the team. Maybe you don't get to play the role that you want to. Like, how badly do you want to achieve your in-game goals or win? But I've definitely been in this situation before where I feel like I'm self-sacrificing too much, communicate it, see no change, and have to inevitably decide to either be okay with how things are or walk away and try and find different teammates to play with. Sometimes it won't work out despite your best efforts, and it is what it is. Finding good teammates is hard. But hey, if you're looking for friends to play with, join my Discord server. I have some cool people in my community and we'd love to have you. Link will be in the description below. Sadly, I will say that as painful as it is, solo queuing ranked is one of the best ways to improve as a teammate and meet people that are willing to actually communicate. It exposes you to different playstyles and teammate tendencies, and being able to adjust on the fly will pay dividends in the long run for you as a player, in my opinion. An analogy I'll leave you guys with is that playing Apex is a lot like playing an instrument. You can't say, I'm just playing the trumpet for fun, not practice and expect to improve. It's a lot more fun to play in a band than to play by yourself, and that's why team games like this can be super rewarding, with a lot of fun potential. But anyways, that's all from me. Hopefully this video served to validate some of your experiences, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.